The four xenomedical staff were pushed into a cramped and broken room. None of them wanted to be there, and none of them wanted to add to the mess that was already playing out here. The nearest to the door was also the tallest. Even his excursion suit loomed until it folded uncomfortably against the shattered hull plate. He had a hard time trying not to look up at the vacuum of space just sitting there, as if it didn't want you dead. He calmed his unfortunate companions. "Excursion medic Cyril, etc., etc. I know who most of you are. I guess we got the same briefing. I'll be clear. We all shot at this ship. None of us bothered to translate the warnings, and my captain just pushed a knife through his own neck out of shame. Cowardly bastard. No one is going home until we fix this. All our ships are on backup power. So we learn, and we learn fast." An almost spherical Xeno responded first. "My esteemed leader, glory to his people and memory to his name, just punched out alone in our rescue skiff. The mechs have redirected him into the local sun. They are Union. What are you reading?" "I'm getting a nitrogen-oxygen mix with an erratic measure of carbon in a bunch of variations. If I hadn't seen it before our glorious command decided to blow it up, I would have said it had violently oxidized before we got here. It's flash frozen across the walls, although that was probably us. Oh, I'm Trefew, a medical and clerical junior. No idea why I was sent, I'm just the lab tech." The slightly older staff knew perfectly well why the creature had been voluntold, but since they hadn't had a handy organ donor to send in their own place, here they all were. The third Xeno pulled off his glove, apparently exposing it to open space. He then realized he had caused a stir. Oh, look around you. You might need to adjust your wavelength settings. This room has sealed itself against the violent dark." The final Xeno spoke up. "More than that, all those shattered hull plates or whatever they are have begun healing, regrowing, fixing themselves. This ship isn't dead." Cyril lowered his head hurriedly. "Good for it. My ship is just sitting out there getting colder. Unless we work out how it shut down all our power, we can't call for help." The reason why 4 medics had been chosen became clear as they shuffled closer to the dimly lit box that made up the center of the room. Occasional flashes of light seemed to illuminate the creature within, leaving no doubt that some unknown Xeno was enclosed. The medic that had removed his glove leaned in and touched it. "Well, I'm a biologist, and there is little I can tell you from here except that it's not one of us. I did read some submissions that proposed a master race, sometimes known as the Seeders or Founders. They were mostly racist shit because they couldn't believe someone else could build a space orbital before them. Nonsense. This is another kind of problem. I doubt they preserve their dead like this. Far too expensive, or so I would have thought, but still possible, I suppose. I think this ship has kept it alive and then defended it against our glorious fleet. It probably doesn't even know we are here." He was wrong. Hostile action detected, xenoaggression, unknown species, unknown capabilities, awaiting attack abilities established. Tier 2, re-establishing ship integrity, human 0 is secure, xeno databases assimilated, multi-species consortium, sufficient economic, military abilities. Awakening has begun. The room sealed itself tighter and the regrowth of the broken ship accelerated until the human craft now resembled a gray and unpolished metal egg. The fruitless attack wiped clean from the ship effortlessly. The 4 crewmen pulled back as their ship's screams of outrage and surprise filled the void with profanity. The frosted altar that contained the unknown creature began opening with a cinematic burst of fog and illumination. Then the creature began to emerge. Zero awoke to the alarms and the insane amount of data and drugs that were being pumped into him. His body went straight to fight mode until he slammed his head on the slow-moving casket lid and swore, "What the fuck? We had years to sort that out." No one seemed to be attacking him yet, and the relevant data began filling his brain. He looked up at the terrified-looking Xenos and nodded. "Sorry. We'll make this look good for the history books. Hi, I'm your new guest/hostage. I'll be with you in a minute." He looked down. "I just need to sort out the plumbing." He began unplugging all the things, including some that he felt were both unnecessarily intimate and probably vindictive. Once he felt sufficiently disentangled, he looked at the Xenos. "I'm just taking a guess here, but I assume you have medical training." That got no response, so he began lifting himself out of the crate. Questions I can answer without you saying a word. My ship has downloaded or stolen every bit of data it can reach. Then it boiled it down into a thick and miserable soup and poured it into my brain. The enhancements it has built into me will do that to every ship, planet, or brothel I encounter, so don't bother speaking in the hope that I don't understand you. My first question, and this is really, really important, is have you any record of meeting my people before? Think carefully. Cyril was the first to speak up. I have no record of meeting a bipedal oxygen breather. You would die in less than 3 minutes in my world. Maybe that would be why. I don't speak for the rest. He seemed to look at his colleagues. I really don't. We don't share intelligence or scientific data easily, and when we do, it's mostly lies. That got a response from Truffaut. Esteemed sir, our data is both pure and honest. My mentors would be shocked by your comments. The round creature seemed to hesitate for a moment. However, it is not always accurate. He turned his attention to the alien. I have no record of sapient oxygen life. It is regarded as too volatile for sustained evolution, causing unstable atmospheres and fire whenever we find traces. We have recorded such organisms causing extinction-level events on some worlds. Zero grinned. Yeah, that sounds like us. The Xenos stepped back a little. The medic that had removed his glove seemed to gather his strength. I am Carefully Orange, science cleric of my ship. We have little experience with aliens and are in space for a relatively short time compared to my colleagues. I have no access to comms, but my people can list our alien contacts on one hand. All 7 are methane ammonia breathers. We have no record of contact with an oxygen-capable organism. We would not land in such a place. The 4th Xeno stepped up. Alas, I have nothing to add. You are my people's first contact with your kind, and I would like to apologize for the distressing manner in which it occurred. He waved an arm at the rest of the group. In truth, we are an alliance of convenience, characterized by endless bickering and petty grievances. The decision to fire upon your ship was made in haste. The fear that others would obtain an advantage in recovering a derelict drove my captain to prefer your destruction to such a politically damaging event. Zero looked at the suited and nervous attackers. Fine. Seems to me that you are telling the truth, so for the moment I will not act against you. There are terms to our first contact. You can choose to agree to them, and I will stay, or disagree, and I will leave. They are simple. I will go with you and live amongst you. I will have freedom of movement and the status of a diplomat. In return, I will provide you with certain technologies depending on what weaknesses I find in your society. Cyril spoke up at the strange idea. What? I cannot decide such a thing. My people would take months, years to decide such a thing. I'm not even the commander of my ship. Such things are beyond me. A murmur of agreement seemed to come from the other xenomedics. Zero shrugged. As I said, you can say no. From my perspective, you are all adult members of your species entrusted with responsibilities in space. That is all I require, and I don't intend to hang around waiting on whatever jumble of hierarchies you might answer to come to a conclusion. He looked back at the crate. I'm not that fond of the blasted thing, but I can carry on and leave you here as a footnote in human history. Your call. Carefully Orange seemed to be stumbling over the idea. Could we perhaps talk to our ships? Can we call for some assistance? Zero nodded. I'm not here to stop you from doing anything. Do as you wish, but it will still be you 4 that make the call. I suggest you do it before it gets any colder on your ship, though. They might not be able to answer. About that, we were sent to discover some way to prevent your ship from interfering with our power systems. While I have no doubt that this is a momentous occasion and one that will be celebrated by our people for years to come, could you please turn our engines back on? Zero shrugged and shook his head. Sorry, Dr. Orange. That was the ship, not me. I'm cargo. You pissed her off when you tried to blow her up. She's not ready to speak to you guys yet. Give it a millennium or 2, and she might let your people know where to find you. Truffaut interrupted. But this is your ship? Are you not esteemed? Are we lost? Zero just looked down at the ball-like creature. Our ships aren't kind. In fact, I'm not particularly kind either. She will probably drop you four home if I ask nicely, as you are sort of diplomats now, but she will regard not blowing your ships to dust as an incredible show of restraint and care. She would be correct, given that no one usually does that and lives long enough to get cold. Not while they can still feel it anyway. It seemed that Cyril was about to vent at Zero when the fourth Xeno began. I am slightly more than a medic. I am also a xenobiologist and contact specialist. Before I can decide anything, I would like to know more about your species. I will die here in space. Reluctantly, I admit, before I allow you to mingle with my people with no clear purpose. Your name is a simple mathematical term. You have no crew or comrades. You seem to have little authority on your own ship. What are your purposes and intent? Good questions, and all asked without needing a committee to write them down and waste weeks. I am Human Zero, the first you will meet. Should my people wish to contact yours, they will trace my reception, my integration with your societies, and my death. They will base all interactions on that data. You won't see my people around here until they are satisfied. Technically, I am a generational contact sample. Your treatment of me and the ship, which is not going well, by the way, will determine your access to our community. That stands at roughly 97,000 species. At least it did before I left. I have a roughly 200-year lifespan remaining unless I get bored, murdered, or eaten. Cyril sounded shocked. And if that happens? Zero laughed. Then the community I represent will take notes. That's it. There might be another opportunity for your people to join us in 1,000 years or so. We don't rush these things anymore. It's all about understanding the subtleties of our contacts. Unlike, as an example, 4 species that can barely agree on science and not shooting at strangers. Turfu seemed to have inflated slightly. Your people take a remarkably long time about such things. Why? Zero seemed to stiffen and released a slow breath. Because we have made over 200,000 first contacts since our arrival in space. The existence of those societies that cannot find their place in the wider community is, well, brief. To stare at the night skies and know you are unwelcome is a harsh thing for any thinking creature. Some prefer that to not eating sentient strangers, though. We don't argue anymore. We just leave. That seemed to be as much as the human was going to say until they made their decision. Human Zero awakened. Integration accepted. Human 1 assimilating.